You're checking in with the doctor for the greatest fantasy baseball podcast in the world, starring your hosts, Dr. Fantasy.
I'm ready to rock and roll today.
And Rydawg.
Harrison Masturbator.
Welcome to Doc and Dog, your fantasy baseball geniuses, presented by the Fantasyholics.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Doc and Dog, presented by the Fantasyholics. My name is Jordan Jaika, aka Dr. Fantasy, and I am here with my co-host Rydawg, and we are in the middle of our MLB catcher ranking mini-series. Today we're going to be talking about our catchers ranked 9th through 12th. So without further ado, before I get into that though, make sure you like the Fantasyholics on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to check out our new website at thefantasyholics.com. So now, without further ado, we'll do our rankings. Number 12 for today, and we're going through 9 through 12 today. 12 in our catcher rankings is Carson Kelly with the Diamondbacks. A little bit of a difference here between you and I. I have him 14th, you have him 9th. Last season, he batted .245 with 18 home runs and 47 RBIs. I have him more as a defensive-minded catcher, and I've told you this kind of in different installments when we did our mini-series where we broke down each team. He hasn't really been known for his offensive prowess in the minor league, so I think long-term he's more of a defensive-minded catcher, which caps his upside. Now, I mean, he could improve offensively. There's no doubt about it. But to me right now, he's more defensive-minded. He's a better real-life catcher than a fantasy catcher. And I'll let you talk about his lineup a little bit because I think this lineup is very underrated, and I think that's probably something that factors in for you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this Diamondbacks lineup last year was very, very underrated in general when they had Christian Walker, Ketel Marte. And now this year, they get David Braulta back, who missed some time last year. And they also added Starling Marte. So there's going to, I think, even if Kelly hits in the 7th hole, it caps his upside a bit. I think he easily makes a jump to the 6th or 5th spot, and there's going to be runners on base where he should drive in. I'm not sure if his average should go up. I think it should go at least up into the 250s. He's always been a defensive-minded catcher, like you said, but I think I saw improvement in his bat last year. Like, wow, you hit 18 home runs. And we always talk about the catchers hit 20, 60 RBIs, and those are the kind of catchers we look for. And I think Carson Kelly should easily do that. He's in a very well lineup in the NL West outside of the Dodgers with Buehler and Kershaw. He doesn't really face much competition now that I really think about it. So I think he should really, really feast in this lineup.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned is a spot in the lineup, and that's one of the things I really like about fantasy baseball is the strategy of it. I think it's where a lot of people don't pay as much attention, but right now I think Carson Kelly's upside is kind of capped in that 7th spot, but if he ends up moving up to 5, 6, or even higher for some reason, I mean, that absolutely brings his value through the roof, in my opinion, whether I think he's defensive-minded or not. So, I mean, they have a very talented top half of the lineup, which I don't think a lot of people realize right now. It's, like I said, very underrated, but really pay attention, and that's something you can take advantage of throughout the season if he does move up.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Number 11 is Cristian Vasquez from the Red Sox. I have him 10th. You also have him 10th, so right around the same spot. He batted .276 last season with 23 home runs, 72 RBIs, even chipped in 4 steals. Very nice season from him. From what I can see, looks like he was 3rd in the league as an average as far as catchers are concerned. So a really nice season from him. There's really nothing to hate. They have a very solid lineup. I think the one knock on him might be a spot in the lineup. But once again, I think he's a guy that has potential to move up into that 5 or 6 spot, which would really raise his value. But I think he's a surefire top 10 catcher this season. And I'm very comfortable drafting him in that spot. And, I talk about value a lot, and I think he's one of those guys that offers a ton of value, and I think some of these top-end catchers do, because people are taking Real Muto so high that once you get to those guys that are ranked 5th through 10, they're going way late in the draft. And I'll take Vasquez as one of my last 5 picks, and I'm very comfortable with him as my starting catcher.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And these top 10 guys, like outside of the Realmutos and Sanchez, these guys are, like you said, they're going way late, and they'll put up very similar numbers, even higher numbers, because we all know Sanchez can't stay healthy. But nonetheless, Vasquez in this lineup and the ballpark he plays in, and with the AL East, I mean, the pitching isn't really the best. I mean, sure, Garrett Cole was there, and I guess Snell and Glasgow. But outside of that, I mean, the pitching's just mediocre at best, so he's going to feast for sure.
Number 10 in our rankings is Omar Nevaeh from the Brew Crew. I have him ranked 12th, or you have him ranked 12th. I have him ranked 9th. He batted .278 last season, 22 home runs, 55 RBIs. And based on the notes that I have here, he was second in the league as far as catcher average is concerned. And we've mentioned a few times it's tough to find catchers with a high average. I think the only reason that I don't have him even higher is just because of the lineup around him. You know, he's still very young. He offers great upside, but I think his RBI potential is really capped based on the lineup around him. And if he moved to a better situation, he might even be a threat to be a top 5 catcher.
Yeah, I'd agree with he needs to be moved to a better situation, because really, Miller Park's a fairly decent-sized ballpark. I wouldn't say it's a hitter's ballpark, but I wouldn't say it's a pitcher's ballpark either. And he's really more, like you mentioned, he batted over 270, so he's more known for his average, but he also has some pop in his bat. So I just think right now all he has to rely on is his home run hitting and his average. He can't rely on RBIs to factor his rank when he moves up, if that makes sense. So he's really only got those two to rely on, those two categories. So if he goes into a slump for some reason, or if he goes on a cold streak, he's gonna be very, very limited.
I agree. Then last today, number 9 in our consensus catcher rankings is Shaun Murphy. One of the biggest differences that we have of I think really of any position player except Yadier Molina. I have Shaun Murphy ranked 7th. You have him 13. Comes to a consensus ranking of 9. Last season, he only had 53 at-bats in the bigs, .245 average, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs. Over the course of a full season, you're probably looking at last season 25 home runs, right around 55, 60 RBIs. So very solid numbers, especially considering he was a rookie last season. He's a top 40 prospect right now, so he's one of the elite catching prospects in all of baseball. And he showed a great offense ability in the minors. I think that .245 is a little fluky. I think he's a much better hitter than that. I think he can hit close to .270 and be one of those .270 hitting catchers with 25 home runs and right around 70 RBIs in a full season. I think the reason I have him higher than most people is I like his spot in the lineup. He's going to be batting 5th or 6th, right behind Simeon and Laureano and Olsen and Chapman. So he's going to have an opportunity to drive in a lot of runs. And if he's able to get that average back up, I think he's going to be a contender to be one of the sleepers at catcher this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. The 240 scares me. It may have been fluky, but I don't know. He has all the talent in the world. He really does. He was one of the top catching prospects a couple years ago, and that offense around him is stacked, I think. So he should be able to bring that average up. We'll see what happens. I'm just not ready to pull the trigger with all the other talent in the top 10.
So I think that's all that we have for today's episode then. These were our catcher rankings number 9 to 12. We have 2 more installments coming up after this, so make sure you check that out. And also make sure that you subscribe to the Fantasyholics YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at FantasyHolics1, and check out our new website, thefantasyholics.com. And we will see you next time.
See you later.